Improving the power sector in 2017 would be one of the expectations of most manufacturers in Nigeria. For them, electricity is the major need in revamping the nation's economy. As the year begins, there are suggestions on what the government should do as they settle into the new year. Well, joining me on the news at 10 to give the views of the manufacturers is the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Muda Yusuf. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10. What for you is the single most important thing or item you feel that the government should identify and address in 2017?
Well, I think perhaps the most important is the issue of energy. Because energy costs in the outgoing year or in 2016 was very high. And it was one of the major factors that drove up prices. There were challenges with gas. There were issues of scarcity of gas. There were also issues with the cost of gas. There were challenges with also LPFO because the refineries were not working. Manufacturers had to be importing LPFO. And they have to be trucking this on the road to their various factories. The cost of diesel was also very high during the year, during in 2016. So energy issue is a major issue because the competitiveness of the manufacturing sector is a function of the cost of operation. And energy is a major component, it's a major driver of cost. Next, of course, is the issue of the foreign exchange policy. Because many manufacturers had very serious challenge with the issue of foreign exchange. Two components of that. There was the issue of the currency depreciation, which escalated the cost of raw materials and a lot of inputs, not just for manufacturers alone, but for investors across all sectors. Then there was the bigger issue of the liquidity in the foreign exchange market, which made it very difficult for manufacturers to plan. Because you are not sure of when you are going to get your foreign exchange, you are not sure of how much you will get and all of that. So all this created a major confidence problem for a lot of investors. It also affected the inflow of foreign exchange to the economy. It affected the FDI, foreign direct investment. It affected foreign portfolio investment. It affected even the exporters. So the issue of liquidity of the foreign exchange market is a major issue that we need to address in 2017.
Let me take you back
if we must really stimulate this economy.
Let me take you back to the first item that you made mention of. You're talking about the power sector, which has by and large been privatized. What aspects of the regulation and monitoring of that power sector do you think that the government should concentrate and improve on the most?
You see, power is part of energy. There is power, there is gas, there is all these other components all of which impact on industry. Concerning power, power has been privatized. But clearly, there have been a lot of challenges with the post-privatization of the power sector. There are serious challenges with capacity. There are serious challenges with liquidity in the power sector. And because of the long chain of power sector, power delivery that we have, and the chain can only be as strong as the weakest link. We had issues at the gas end. The gas suppliers complain about not being paid. We had issues at the levels of the discos. We had issues at the level of transmission. So there has to be a proper audit of the entire power delivery chain to identify the gaps and see how we fill the gaps. But certainly we need to ensure that those who are players in the sector have the capacity to deliver in terms of their funding, in terms of their technical capacity. That is very important. Then concerning the other aspect of energy, we need our refineries to work. That is critical to supply, gas, to supply LPFO, to supply all the other things that come from our refineries. Because as we speak, we are still heavily dependent on imported petroleum products.
What should it be?
30% of our forex is going to importation of petroleum products.
My apologies. Now that you've said so much of what is wrong with the economy with respect to your sector, the manufacturing sector, we are definitely in a recession. Yes. How do you suppose that the government can meet all these needs that you just outlined?
No, it's a policy issue largely. There's an expenditure component, but more importantly is policy. If you have the right kind of policy in place to stimulate the right kind of investment in the various sectors, of course there will be a turnaround. And when we talk about economic policy, two major components. There's the monetary policy, there's the fiscal policy, and of course there's a third one, which is the trade policy. So we need to ensure that each of these policy components are structured in a way to stimulate the right kind of investment in all the critical sectors of the economy. And there has to be also proper engagement at sectoral level. Because the challenges that players in the economy face vary from sector to sector. So there has to be, in addition to addressing the cross-cutting issues, there has to be a proper engagement at the sectoral level, so that sector-specific issues can also be dealt with in 2017. Because it is the players in the sector that are best positioned to advise the government on the key bottlenecks in the sector. And that will help to enrich the quality of policy in 2017.
Now, let's look at what one of the economists in Nigeria, very renowned for that matter, Mr. Bismarck Rouhani, says that he supports the strategies being adopted by this government to end the recession. Do you share the same views with him?
Well, I don't exactly know what specific issues he referred to. But what I do know is that unless you have the right kind of policies to stimulate private investment, because government has a role in the economy, the private sector has a role, who are the investors have a role, then the consumers also have a role. If we are in a recession, we need to stimulate spending across these three levels. We need to stimulate investment spending, we need to also stimulate consumer spending. We need to put policies in. For instance, we have a monetary policy that is not so friendly because of the tight monetary policy regime. So it is not easy for domestic investors to get the right kind of funding for their investment. We have a foreign exchange policy that is also not too investment friendly. So unless we get the right kind of foreign exchange policy framework, it will be difficult to stimulate both domestic and foreign investment.
I'll take that as your closing.
So the policy environment, I think we need to do a great deal of work in that area.
I want to thank you so much indeed, of course, the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Muda Yusuf, for talking to us here on the News at 10.
Thank you very much.